Okay, so we're going to start off this kitbash with Brother Chairon. These are the parts that I used for kitbashing Chiron. So we start off with the normal Assault Intercessor body as the base. This head is from the Primaris Crusader squad kit. I started off by gluing on this pistol and holster. Next, I'm going to go over and glue on his purity seals, jumping around a little bit. Started off with the chest one, skip ahead to the shoulder pad, and then finish off with the leg. Next, I'm going to be tackling the mechanical arm, as well as this other one with the purity seal wrapped around it. So to do the arms for Chiron, I'm going to start off with this bolter. And in the game, since they don't have any symbols on their bolter, I'm going to shave this little bit off. Next, I'm going to cut off this hand bit here so I can glue on the 3D printed arm. Then I'm going to take this other arm, I'm going to glue that on as well. There was a little bit too much of a gap, so I decided to fill it in with some super glue. Next, I'm going to use this shoulder pad, and I'm going to glue it on to finish off the arm. So next, I'm going to do this reliquary. There isn't one that's an exact match, so I just took one from the kit and glued that on. To finish it off, I glued on the scroll from a purity seal, cutting off the top, and this is what it looks like. Okay, so I know that this emblem is highlighted, but I'm just going to do the whole shoulder pad. First, I start off with this jewelry chain and this shoulder pad with a bullet on it. Start off by gluing on the front and the back of the first chain. I put a drop of glue in the middle to hold both of the chains on. Put on the second chain, and this is what the shoulder pad looks like. Now I take this piece from the Victrix Honor Guard kit, cut off the tassels because I just need the ultramarine symbol. I use a little piece of poster tack or sticky tack to hold the symbol on so I can easily transfer it to the shoulder pad. And boom goes the dynamite. I take a purity seal, I cut off the top of it so I can get the scroll, and then I glue that on to the ultramarine symbol. To finish off with these little ultramarine symbols on the back of the shoulder pad, I used the tops of these purity seals. I glue on those to wrap up the shoulder pad. And with that, you have a completed shoulder pad for Chiron. Last, you're going to glue in the head and the shoulder pad, and that is the completed Chiron model. This thing is awesome. I love how this thing turned out. Honestly, I wish it was not going in the diorama so I could keep it for my collection, but I'll just have to make a second one, I guess. So next up, we're going to kitbash Sergeant Gadril. Here's the parts I'm going to use for Sergeant Gadril's kitbash. We're going to do his pouches on the front of his belt as well as the Tarouges. I have this extra front from the Victrix Honor Guard kit. I'm going to start by cutting off the Tarouges a little bit high so I don't damage those. Cut them down to length, like so. I don't need the one off to the side, so I'm going to clip that one off. It should look like this. I then went and cut the front of the cod piece down flat so I could glue these in place. So I go ahead, glue those on. I now take the spare one and glue that one on. Now I glue on this first pouch. For the second pouch, since his leg is angled forward, I cut it at a 45-degree angle so it would fit. And then I glued that one on. And this is what it looks like. Moving on, I added the pistol and the holster. So I now glued on the purity seal on his leg, as well as the one that goes on his pack. For his bolter, I cut this symbol off as well and glued the arms on because there's just nothing fancy, just normal arms. Next, I'm going to do this shield on his shoulder pad. So I started off with this one since it's the right shape and it has the skull and crossbones. I shaved off with my knife carefully. Then I glued it onto the shoulder pad and then glued the shoulder pad onto the arm. And it looks like that. Next, I'm doing the whole shoulder pad. Again, I highlighted just a certain part. So I'm going to start with this and cut the majority of this shoulder pad off. I need the ring that goes around the shoulder pad so I can glue this other one on to get that little added detail that this one doesn't have. Once I glue it on, it should look like this. I take this from the Victrix Honor Guard kit, cut off the ropes on the side, but leave the tassels this time because I do need those. And there is the completed shoulder pad. Once that's done, glue that in place, and then finish it off by gluing on his head. And with that, you have a completed Sergeant Gadril. I like this one a lot as well, so I'm going to have to do another one so I can add this to my collection as well. We're going to wrap up this kit bashing video with Lieutenant Titus. So we're starting off with this ancient base. I don't need the back of the torso, so I'm going to cut that off. With that removed, I'm going to cut off this pouch from the side since we have a holster for Titus. Do a quick test fit. Need to remove the belt. So I'm going to start off by cutting off this front part of the belt here. Once that's removed, I also cut off the rest of the belt. Then I take Titus's front torso and I cut off this little leg bit here so it would fit on to the body. I did some more modification and shaving down to the legs, and then I glued on the second leg. I cut off this arm on the torso so that way I could have it flush on both sides. Then I glued on the torso onto the legs. I glued on this left shin guard since it's the same one that Titus has. I took the right shin guard for Titus though because it's got the battle damage. I cut out this little push pin since it wouldn't sit flush with that in there. I then removed a bunch of material from the right leg so that the shin guard would sit flush, and then I glued that on. Then I glued on this holster onto the side where I cut off the pouch. Then I took Titus's right leg and I cut off this side pauldron and pouch and glued that onto the body. I then cut off this push pin since it was causing me problems trying to get the pack on, and then I just glued the pack on with some super glue. Next up, I took the bolter from the ancient, cut off this pouch on the back, and cut off this scroll on the side. Once I was done with that, I then glued it onto the body. I then take Titus's arm with the pistol, cut off this push pin, take this other arm, cut this front part of it off. Once that was done, I glued them together, and then I glued that onto the body. Next up, with Titus's head, I cut off this retaining pin and glued that in place. And at this point, we're almost wrapped up with this Titus model. We just have a couple more steps left. Then I finished off the arm by gluing on the shoulder pad. I then took this banner topper and cut this bottom piece off and glued it onto this 3D printed banner. I then took the arm for holding the banner, glued that on, and then I glued the banner to the arm. And with that, we have finished kit bashing our Lieutenant Titus model. I think this thing turned out pretty sweet. I'm pretty happy with all three of these models that came out, but let me know what you think. Hey, I'm Matt. If you've made it this far in the video, I appreciate you taking your time out to watch. This is a interesting challenge for me, trying to learn how to do YouTube videos with the editing and then dubbing over with audio. So if you notice some hiccups with me kind of stumbling over some things or, some weird edits, I'm just trying to get videos out right now. And after Adepticon, I'm going to work on cleaning that up and getting better at making videos. I'm a little bit time crunched right now. I still have to finish up making this diorama base, and then I have to get into painting all the miniatures in the base. So hopefully I can still try to keep pumping out some update videos along the way, but if it kind of comes down to it, the videos will take a back seat so I can get the project done, and then I'll try to wrap up some videos for the project after Adepticon. Stay tuned, and thanks for watching.